Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as dragons and hulks. I'm one of your hosts, the Alpha Donut Guy, Bretton Beswick, alongside my co-host, the voice of the San Marcos Royals, Gregory T. Filson. Greg, how are you this night?
I'm doing okay. Couple days into school, things are actually going pretty smooth. I got a good class so far. There'll be a good class the whole way, but it's been pretty smooth. It's totally different atmosphere. Feel somewhat more prepared now than working on a Friday at a bookstore and then being thrown into a classroom on a Monday. A little different scenario this time, so feeling pretty good. A little tired. I haven't slept much because I just don't sleep well whenever I do the teaching thing, and then it's the rise and grind of getting up 5:15, doing that. Yeah, so rise and grind all day, every day.
5 a.m. club.
5 a.m. club.
Yep.
You have to. At least, I don't have to. I just I'd rather run in the morning and get it out of the way.
Right. Well, the dream is free. The hustle's sold separately.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. The coffee I'm drinking, and we're not no sponsored content, but the coffee I'm drinking this week is somehow really kicked. I don't know. I think I've had it before, so I'm not sure what the difference is. But I feel pretty good. So we'll see. We'll see when Saturday comes around.
Yeah.
When I'm not on the adrenaline rush and still am
and
doing pizza. So yeah, I'm going to do pizza as well for the place.
Oh,
so
cool.
Another 3 jobs for me because I just can't stop that grind every day.
Stop the grind. Can't stop the grind. You got a new gig.
Are you, Brenton? Yeah, I do have the new gig. That's right. I am going to be the PA announcer, at least this season, starting after halftime. The day this show comes out, Friday. Well, they want to just not throw me in, I guess. I'd be okay with that. It's just PA announcing. It's, Henderson up the middle, 3 yards, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I'll be doing that every Friday. Well, not every Friday, 5 games.
That's it?
It's home games.
Oh, home games. Yeah. Okay.
Home games. Yeah. So, we'll see if that turns into anything. If they ever need basketball or anything, maybe I'll be down to do that every once in a while. But yeah, so just keep on keeping on.
I did the clock for some games, for junior high basketball games, and that is stressful.
Yeah.
Because it is like, you don't want to be the clock guy that the parents are going, start the clock. You don't want to be that guy. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. I umped once for Little League. It was after my shift was over at the Record Argus. And they're like, do you want to ump? We'll pay you $25. And that was scary.
Behind the plate?
Behind the plate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was very quick. It was like Little League, but like little, like that in between, like
minor
T-ball.
League. Yeah, like
the minor league. Yeah, the minor league. And they didn't need me for the full game. It was another one of those weird things. Like the guy was running late.
Sure.
And I was like, sure, I'll do this. It was like a Saturday assignment or something. So I didn't, and I did it for, I think, 3 innings. And, you don't really have to pad up or anything. You put the one thing on, the mask.
Yeah.
You're pretty much set.
That's
these kids aren't gunning it.
Right.
But that was it was still scary because it was just making the wrong call.
Yeah.
We complain about that a lot with professional umpires, and to some degree, they are professional. This was me doing it for the first time ever. But even when that ball's coming in there at like 30, you're like, did I see it right? Actually? So
yeah.
I imagine the hardest sport to be a referee in would be hockey, because you also are skating.
Yeah, constantly.
Constantly skating. Like, you're skating more than the actual players.
Yeah. and there's a lot of
That's
going like this.
and a lot of backwards skating.
Yeah, a lot of this though.
A lot of that, ton of that. So I imagine that would be difficult because, like every other sport, you're doing something you do naturally.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Run or
run,
stand, squat.
stand, squat, things like that. But
But
ice skating was not. We were not born with ice skates on. Otherwise, our moms would be in rough shape.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, do you know what else is in rough shape?
What? Ah, you did it again. You swashbuckling son of a bitch.
For the audio, it's a video thing. So just, you got to watch the video.
Yeah, watch the
Sometimes
video.
it's a running joke with our backgrounds that you can't see unless you're watching the video. So,
Pay for the premium of not anything.
right. You're just paying with your time.
Yep.
I school is starting here. I had one start their first day pre-K. The other one starts on Monday, and we started Taekwondo, and
Nice.
that was funny because my son was showing his little combos, ha ha,
Oh yeah.
his Daniel son stuff, and my daughter, who's younger, says, "I want to try," and cocks back like she's in a bar fight. And she's just ready to take somebody
Did
out.
she smash a bottle and just like hold it up?
Yeah, there's like a pool cue. There's like a broken pool cue. Yeah, but other than that, it's just been a lot of like stressful stuff this week with getting everything ready. But it is
Yeah,
that's part of being a parent, which is one of the things that we'll actually cover later
we
in
will.
the show. But we have some movie or TV reviews. That actually reminds me of something that I wanted to check. Just taking a little break here. Oh my, I can't type.
Break me off a piece of that Kit
Okay.
Kat bar.
We are not sponsored by. Okay, saw what I needed to see. I'll probably, if I remember to, I'll cut this part out. But if not, then enjoy the quiet contemplation, listeners. We have She-Hulk episode 2, and we have the series premiere of the HBO Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, and we're going to take a look at really one of the kids stuff seems to be taken by storm quite easily, because all it takes is like a movie with a catchy song. We don't talk about Bruno or whatever, but there's a TV show over the last couple of
Baby shark,
years.
a shark, a shark, shark,
Do,
shark.
do,
Shark.
do, do,
Do,
do, do,
do, do,
do,
do, do, do,
baby
do.
shark.
Jamie tart, 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 tart.
Yeah. Those sort of things, but a show that is really kind of taken the US by storm, and it's an older show, it's a little bit older, but Bluey, which is an Australian cartoon that debuted, I think the BBC produced it in England, and then Disney picked it up over here. And I had Greg watch one of these episodes, and we're going to kind of analyze that episode and Bluey as a whole, which Greg didn't know anything about Bluey. I'm wearing Bluey, got my Bluey shirt on tonight.
Nice. I love that.
So we're gonna talk about one of the episodes of part 1 of season 3 of Bluey. But we will begin with She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, episode 2. Jen is fired from her job after she turns into She-Hulk and saves the jurors, the Roar jurors, some would say. From certain destruction, she has hard pressed to get a job until she is offered a position heading up a superhuman or superhero, whatever, legal team at an agency in which she has to appear in court and at work as She-Hulk. And her first case is to represent Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, played very capably by Tim Roth, obviously, from the Ed Norton Hulk movie from way back in the day at this point,
Way back.
for his parole hearing. And so she goes to meet Mr. Blonsky, expecting the Abomination. She gets Emil, Tim Roth, and then we at the stinger at the end of the episode, spoilers if you haven't watched it yet, so skip forward maybe 10 seconds, is him participating in the underground fighting ring that was shown in Shang-Chi. So connecting those dots. And there was a little bit of Bruce in this episode as well. I do think that with what we saw, this will probably be the last time we see Bruce in this show.
I do.
Yeah. So what did you think of episode 2?
I thought this is kind of more what we were expecting with this show, with like a more of we're following the camera, the single shot, the lawyer kind of drama. Obviously, it's still Marvel, so it has to have those elements. Well,
for better or worse.
For better or for worse, exactly. And so that it was a thing, she still broke the fourth wall, which we just know that's going to happen now. I mean, that's just going to be the thing with this because they did it in the comic books, whatever reason. But what I found out, what I really like about this show that I enjoy is when she's just not She-Hulk. And like that, I find it like that, like her interaction with her paralegal, her interaction, with her family, stuff like that is just kind of fun and reminds me of like those legal shows back in the day, like a Boston Legal or
Ally McBeal. I was thinking
Ally McBeal, stuff like that, where it's just there's sometimes are just these kind of like completely nothing conversations that happen, and people have like real deal stresses in their life, and instead of hers being, this one, she loses her job. That's what happens in one of these like legal shows. Someone loses their job. The episode's about them losing their job, being bummed out, whatever. And then they get a new job by the end. And sometimes it's under shady reasons or something weird like blackmail or something like that could be involved or whatever. And in this case, it follows all of those, except that it's just that you must be She-Hulk. This is about superheroes. And here's the Abomination, which there's a good chance that some people had just never seen the Edward Norton Hulk and didn't even know that was like a thing. And it's very possible. And I thought, I was like, I mean, I've seen that movie, but I was just like, oh yeah, wow, that was a long time ago. So I like that aspect of it. What I don't really like is like it feels like every time she's She-Hulk, and it seems so forced. And so like we had to make this TV show. We had to do a She-Hulk character because it's like a woke TV show that breaks the fourth wall. And I really feel like this show could be way better if the She-Hulk idea was there, but not so overburied. And if it was really what we kind of joked around about it being like just a like A to Z standard legal drama, where maybe like half the show, 20 minutes of the show is her actually in a courtroom kicking ass, like doing things like that, having like a relationship or whatever. And then there's like 10 minutes. And I don't mean like, I shouldn't say like not the first 20 minutes, but 20 minutes of the 30-minute show, her doing her job. And then there's like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, of her just being She-Hulk. I think the show would do way better, at least right now. Now we're only 2 episodes in. This is 9 episodes, I believe.
Eight.
I think okay. 8, yeah. So we're only a quarter away done, and things can definitely change. But for me, it has more. It shows that it has more potential than the first episode. But I'm still like, can we not have this be so forced? Make it maybe a little more natural into that.
No, you're right. It is 9. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's just one of those things where I was like, is this? I understand what the show is, but when Steve Rogers is Captain America, he's just Captain America. And so, sometimes he fights and it never seemed forced, or Tony being Iron Man, it never seemed forced. And this one just seems so like, well, you have to be She-Hulk in the courtroom. And I'm like, really? Like, this is how we're implementing it. So I thought that was just a little, to me, that just didn't work for me as well as I wanted it to. But I like the scene in her parents' house. Actually, like the scene in the end credits where she is carrying stuff. That's funny,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that. But it was just this weird mix of like that middle part just didn't jive for me as much. But we know that this show's going somewhere because of what had happened with the Abomination in the fighting scene, and at least we have something going.
Yeah. Um, I just think I, I think personally I'm at an inflection point where I might just be done with Marvel, or at least on like a we've talked about this recently when they released their phase 5 and phase 6 schedule and stuff like that, that it's becoming a lifestyle choice. And I feel like, and it's not necessarily to do with She-Hulk per se, but I think that this is just kind of a microcosm of the way I feel right now about Marvel, which is it's just kind of like I'm just kind of over it. And that every now and again we'll get something cool and
Mm-hmm.
different and interesting, right? We got I thought Shang-Chi was great. I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Moon Knight, but I think that show was a perfect case of kind of like what you're saying here, where it wasn't forced that the superhero was there all the time. We barely saw Moon Knight.
Yeah.
It was that battle between um the multiple versions of Oscar Isaac. And I thought that it was cool and different. But like the more I think about the Thor movie, I was just, are we just at this point pretending and going through the motions? Because outside of Spider-Man and I would say Shang-Chi, these movies have not been good. And it's like we talked about it with the phases, that I felt like that they were trying to, artificially raise the level of hype. And I think that a big problem is because of the fact that we're getting so deep into the catalog of characters that we're just being bludgeoned over the head with characters that nobody cares about. And I said it a couple weeks ago that I feel like that they are trying to convince us that Crystal Light is Kool-Aid. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what this show feels like to me, is that it's just, well, you like Hulk, so how about a little She-Hulk? It's like, well, no, I don't want that. I want I want Hulk. I don't want I don't want I don't want Ironheart in Black Panther 2. I want Iron Man. I don't want Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Sam and Bucky, they've been there for the ride, but I want Chris Evans. And
Right.
it's the point now where I feel like they're just they're just serving us like the MCU through the Infinity Saga was that 5-star steakhouse. And you're going to get something good, whether it's the strip or the fillet or whatever, and whatever's on the side. You're going to get that. What you're going to get is good. And now that we're kind of past that point, I feel like the MCU is now just like Eden Park. And they have some of everything, but none of it's good. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. This is, and I agree with you in this because, and you and I are having just like a text conversation about. I'm definitely burned out on it. I mean, I will definitely say that. I know that's very millennial to say, like you're burned out on something,
Well,
but
it's just fatigue. It's just Marvel
it's
fatigue.
just
It's just
it,
being run into the ground.
because I was thinking about this because I was like, well, is this because we have the podcast, so I'm like doing this because of the pod? It's like, well, I would still watch these things, and I just wouldn't have to talk about it, and
Yeah.
that would be the biggest difference. So I don't think that is a big difference. I think it's like I still would consume it, and I thought about this while watching this today. My thing was, let's say that at the end of the Infinity Saga, instead of Captain America getting old, instead of Tony Stark dying, they just are heroes. And we just continue on this pathway. Um, Maybe Black Widow still ends up dying or whatever, but we are still on this pathway with Captain America and Iron Man as Chris Evans, as Robert Downey Jr. And let's say we do that for 4 more years. And this is the thing about all these characters is all these phases we get with like the big movies. Guess who's involved in all those in the comic book? Iron Man
Yeah.
and Steve Rogers Captain America. So it's like in a way, and I know that that's different. And like these actors, they want to do, they want to get away from it too because they probably get burned out. I
Yeah.
completely understand that, but I oft wonder if I would have, knowing that they wanted to continue to do movies, would have been better for all of us consuming it if they just kept them as heroes. They defeat Thanos, and we just get three more big, three more big Avengers movies, maybe like one Iron Man movie in between, one Captain America movie in between, and then we end it there. And we just we're done with it. Like we do 4 more years because it was so. Because I agree with you, that was so good, and I'm not saying they would have matched that, but all I'm saying is it would have given us just a little bit more of both of those characters. Which I mean, they based a comic book, they based that movie Civil War off these two for a reason, and I think I think that might have been the route to go, and then do what we've said, just end it, and that's a lot of
It's
a lot
I
of
think
speculation, a lot of different things. But I just think that every one of us, including MCU itself, would have been better served just saying, Chris Evans, we'll give you, 50%, something ridiculous, like an outrageous number, just to keep him as Captain America, give Robert Downey Jr. A little bit more because that's just the way that works, just to keep him along for let's say 4 more years. And we're gonna bang out some Avengers movies. We're gonna do, secret, whatever you want to do, Secret Wars, but we need to keep this group together because we don't know what we're doing, because we're starting to see that now, that maybe they don't know what they're doing, and it makes me a little nervous.
well, I think that they're trying new things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that trying new things here is kind of like how Madden tries new things. And at the end of the day, it's still just Madden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And that's kind of as good. And we said this at the time, as good as as good as Shang-Chi was, as much as I liked it, they very, very nearly ruined a perfectly good kung fu movie by turning it into a Marvel movie. And I get the same vibe from this show, as we'll try to maybe bring it back towards the show, is like you said, oh, well, we're going to get the expectation for what they showed us is it's going to kind of be like a courtroom drama sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's still Marvel. And so it has to have those sort of cheesy over the top jokes and the cringy dialogue at times and the questionable CGI of action figures running into each other. So as much as they want to say, okay, this is a new, fresh idea, at the end of the day, it's still just Madden. It's still just a football game. It's been the same game for the last 27 years. And they might add a feature here or a feature there or a mode here or a mode there. And there's the cards and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still Madden. and R2 still juke right and L2 still juke left. And that's how Marvel is at this point, where it's like, this has a lot of potential. They're going to ruin that potential by making it a Marvel thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I'm at. And like, that's part of why I keep going back to Moon Knight, where it's saying like, Moon Knight was so special because you have a tremendous actor in Oscar Isaac, and he's playing this role of these split personalities in such a way that it kind of outshined all the other stuff.
Right.
It the Marvelness of it didn't take away from how special that show was. And then to then turn around and see Miss Marvel, and Miss Marvel is like the highest rated Rotten Tomato Marvel show so far, which is just bonkers to me. And so I think the formula is, for better or worse, is to just kind of do what they do best and try to mix old characters with new characters. And I think that that's why Hawkeye was so successful. I think that that's, to us anyway, why we
Right.
really liked it. And I think that, the first episode of She-Hulk had that same panache, because it was, okay, we're going to introduce a new character, but we're also going to ease that sort of onto you by also giving you Bruce. I'm interested to see where this goes. I do think that there's a story here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it can play out really well, but I just feel like that sort of courtroom dramedy that we were like wink wink promised isn't really going to be there, and it's just going to be Madden. It's just going to be Madden. And
And yeah, I think you're right, Brendan. I just, sorry about it. I just think you're right. I think that's, we expect more because at one point we did get more, and now we don't, and
right,
that's rough.
well, it's kind of like when Ant-Man came out, and Ant-Man didn't set the world on fire, but it was like, oh cool, a Marvel movie that's just basically a straight comedy, because you have a comedic actor in the starring role with Paul Rudd, right? And then at the same time with, oh cool, they're doing Spider-Man and he actually looks like a teenager instead of Tobey Maguire, who looks like he's 28 playing an 18-year-old, right? And the team up movie's awesome, whatever. And then when they turned Thor on its head with Ragnarok, all great stuff, because we were expanding on these things. But now it's just the same stuff with a different coat of paint at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just such a barrage of things all the time. And I do think that part of, like, COVID played a big part of that, because the hose got coiled up, and then you got to let it go at some point, and all the water is going to come rushing out. Right. Yeah. And so I do think that if they could have had it differently, there would have been way more space between a lot of these things, a lot of them, especially the movies. But with, the theater shutdown being what it was, and trying to hold things as long as possible so that they would make money, or at least make their money back, I do think that things got pretty unfairly bunched up on each other. I mean, the reality of it is that Shang-Chi was September, I think.
Yep.
And by the time Black Panther rolls around, in like a span of 15 months, we'll have gotten Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, 6 movies, and however many shows. It's a lot. And I just think that the best thing for them to do realistically would be to just go away for a while, but that's not going to happen. And I do think that Disney as an entity kind of has a history of running things into the ground like this. I think the perfect example is like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And how they took something pretty special with the Black Pearl and even Dead Man's Chest and just fucking ruined it over time. And I think that unfortunately that's kind of the pattern that we're seeing here with Marvel, and to another extent maybe Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, at some point, I think a movie's just going to suck so much. It's going to be like, I'm done.
I think what's going to happen, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be, and I'm not rooting for this, but there needs to be a bomb A movie just
Yeah.
makes I know it sounds weird, but a movie just makes $500 million. Like
Yeah.
people just like say this is bad.
Well,
We don't like it.
it's
I
like
don't think that'll ever happen.
who the hell wants to see Thunderbolts? Who the hell wants to see it? We've already done Fantastic Four. It's already failed twice.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And it's like some of these other things. I'll be honest with you. You know what I think it will. What I think it'll be. What the one that bombs will be. I think it'll be Captain America. I think it'll be the Anthony Mackie led Captain America. I think that it will. I think it will tank.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
I think that'll be the one.
Because I think, yeah, I mean, that wouldn't shock me
Yeah,
at all, really.
because people are going to see, or I'll tell you what the Marvels. I think those are your two. That those are going to be.
Yeah,
They're going to bomb. I think they'll bomb both of them. I think the
and
Marvels will
I guess
really bomb. Actually, that's probably my number one pick.
This is my question: what would designate a bomb? Less than 800 million?
Well, okay. I don't have
in this day and
numbers
age.
in
Yeah, I'm just saying based on what we know. It's just like one of those things.
Like Uncharted, I think Uncharted made 300 million, and that was a success for Sony. They made their money back. It was still pandemic time. I think that's what the worldwide gross was. But I think anything under 600 million for Marvel, it would be considered a failure. And I know Eternals didn't do strong, but that had the excuse of the pandemic. Yeah. Because none of those movies did super well. Black Widow didn't do great theatrically. Shang-Chi didn't do great theatrically in terms of finances. The Eternals did not do well, and then Spider-Man was where things kind of turned.
Yeah, but said, screw it, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like they'll always have Spider-Man, and I think when the X-Men come, they'll be big. But yeah, I just like I look forward
the French
and less. Yeah. Oh, the French. I look forward to these shows less and less with each passing show. Like I was all aboard the hype train for WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki. And then after Loki, I was like, ooh, well, maybe not.
Right.
And then we got a break and we got Moon Knight and it was great. But then Miss Marvel kind of wasn't super great to me. So, but that's just one man's opinion.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you on that. I will say, like, I just don't have the enthusiasm, and that there's probably a lot of different things, at hand on that. But for me, it's just I don't have the enthusiasm to go on with it. I mean, and I'm older, but I'm not like it's not significant. It wasn't that long ago that Infinity War, Endgame happened, and I was stoked. I mean, like that's the thing, like as stoked as I've ever been for something. And it's like I just don't have that in me right now, and maybe that'll change. Maybe something will happen. I'll be like, okay, we're back. But I think it has a lot to mend. I think much more than they even envisioned.
Yeah. But this has been going on. I mean, it's Iron Man. The first Iron Man was May 2nd, 2008.
Yep.
And so for reference, I was God, I don't even know, 20.
I was 23. That was my 23rd birthday.
24. I was 24 and I'm about to be 38.
Yeah.
So this is, and that's what I mean. It's like, just at some point, just let it go. Go away for a while. Go away. And then come back. Sort it out.
Maybe after this last phase that they've announced, they'll go away for a little bit.
We'll see. That's in like, when did you say Kang Dynasty comes out on
3 years? Because it'll be 40.
Birthday?
I'll be 40. Yep.
Yeah. So then there's like another 6 months after that is the last whatever Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's just the last Avengers movie. And I mean that because I love the Infinity Saga so much that I just don't want to see it tainted by bullshit. And unfortunately, I do think that that's the direction that we're headed in. But She-Hulk.
She-Hulk. He's always evolved, but how can they not? I mean, that's just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah. I'm still oddly attracted to her though, as She-Hulk. I want to see
Okay.
you don't like She-Hulk. I would like to see more She-Hulk. I would like
I
it to
mean,
be only She-Hulk.
I guess the thing is, if they just presented it as She-Hulk and not a lawyer show, then I would have been like, just have her kick ass. But now that and like I said, I'm a courtroom drama guy, so
Well, why can't she be She-Hulk in the courtroom?
I mean, it just seemed forced. It's like you have to be
Well,
like,
it is forced.
but if she was just,
it's because of Madden.
yeah, that's what I mean. I'm just saying that just it was so forced feeling. But that I get it. It's just it seems a little but I digress. I'm so we're still watching the show, and I still think the show has potential.
So do I, and it's just the overarching,
right? It's the overarching thing
for me. But moving on to the much anticipated series premiere of HBO's House of the Dragon, the first of reported many Game of Thrones spinoffs, premiered on this last Sunday. Let me pull up some. Whoa. Who plays Mike Tyson in that Hulu thing? This is just completely sidebar, obviously.
I don't know.
Sometimes I get distracted by the shiny shit that I see.
Russell Hornsby.
Who the hell's that? No. Regardless. Okay. The House of the Dragon, HBO, and we have starring Patty Considine, Emma D'Arcy, Matt Smith, Reese Ilfins, he's been around. That's who played Dr. Connors, the lizard in Spider-Man, among other things. Steve Toussaint, Eve Best, and many, 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 many others. The first episode gives us the series gives us the story of House Targaryen set 200 years before the events of Game of Thrones. And in the first episode, we see the struggle of two brothers, one King Viserys Targaryen and his brother Prince Daemon Targaryen, sort of maneuvering around each other for the Iron Throne, such as it is. But the much anticipated series based on George R.R. Martin's fan fiction of his own fiction. Come at me. I don't even care anymore. Greg, I was not expecting to really sink my teeth into this, but I found myself really enjoying it. The first episode,
okay,
really, really enjoying it, and I'll get to that. But just what were some of your base opinions on episode 1?
And I understand, like, I watched Game of Thrones, and for the most of Game of Thrones, I enjoyed it.
Can I hop in and just clarify?
Yeah.
You watched it like binged, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I did. We did all the whole series in like I think less than a month or something. Yeah. I mean, we like went through it because we wanted to like be on time to see the final episode with everybody else.
So, but I caught on I watched season 1 as season 2 was happening and kind of caught on from there. So yeah.
Yeah. Different ways.
Read the 5 books.
Yeah. I have not read the books. I have a different relationship with this. But like I said, I did enjoy most of this show, Game of Thrones. And the thing that kind of just stuck with me on this, and maybe I was just like a little slappy from working, getting up early, but the tone of it being just so like hyper serious. And like Game of Thrones was like very serious. Don't get me wrong, but it felt like there was at least something to it about like we kind of know this is serious, and like we're being serious, but there's a little underline of like obviously this is just like fantasy things like this. but in this, it's so serious to me, like almost to a fault, where it like kind of made me feel cringy on how like
Mm.
overall like dark and depressing everything was. And it just, and that's, for a lot of people that's probably fine. Like this is getting really good reviews, and I'm
Mhm.
not even saying I like necessarily disliked it at all. I will walk away saying it, for me it almost felt like a little corny. I will say that, a little corny. uh it wasn't what I was expecting. I was
Mhm.
just pretty much, what I was expecting was this is just going to be Game of Thrones, but different, a different storyline, but everything else is the same, which for the most part it kind of is. But when it's very serious, it's to me where people are like literally like, I went to the Shakespeare School of Acting and I have to be the most serious thing all the time. And it was just sometimes a little too much for me.
Mm.
And there was not, it felt like everyone was almost like, I don't want to say robotic, but almost so up a level that, to me there was just, everyone was overacting
Mm.
to where there was nothing coming down on it. And yet I still was intrigued. Like I really liked the ending of this episode. I thought the
Mm.
ending really like set up like, oh, here we go. I mean,
Right.
not just because she gets the throne, but also just like the drama build up, like the way the show is actually paced and everything. Fine, perfect. It was an hour, 10 minutes or something, maybe not even that
Well,
long, but
it was it was under an hour runtime, and then they gave
right
you
time. Okay,
like 10 minutes of behind the scenes shit.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, it wasn't super long, and it did move along, but there were just
That's what
parts to me
she
that felt,
said.
yeah, that's what she said. But there were parts to me that just didn't work, and maybe it was just my own way of looking at it. Uh, but I'm not down on this at all. I just feel like I hope that that level of like, we have to be, it's because they're living up to something that is pretty well regarded
Mhm.
overall,
Yeah.
and to try to live up to that is going to be very hard. But also it just made me laugh. There were times where things were so serious that I started just laughing, because I'm like, this is so insane right now how intense this is. And like we're episode one in, we're
Yeah.
one, and that just kind of made me laugh. So maybe that's me. Maybe there's just me being a little slap happy, but uh, you know, didn't dislike the episode. Just thought there were parts where just a little much.
I like I said, and I'm to get into this. I I I expected my I leading up to the last season of Game of Thrones, I was like, okay, I'm ready to be done with this. There was too big of a gap in between the penultimate season and the final season, and the end was so rushed. And I just read a thing last week that George Martin had said that they should have had 10 to 13 seasons of Game of Thrones, and I probably would have, I just would have been out at that point.
Right, right, right.
But I think that I think that the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones are some of the best television of all time. And I think that season 3 of Game of Thrones stands with some of the best seasons of any television, bar none. And I think that a lot of people come for the violence and they come for the sex. But
Sure.
what
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's an HBO show, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but what I felt like, especially not just watching the show, but reading the books as well, the thing that made to me Game of Thrones so interesting was the political intrigue
Mm-hmm.
involved with, especially in the first season where you had the Starks and the Lannisters and the Baratheons all trying to outmaneuver each other. And then in the second season, we start to get into, well, who has the claim to the throne now that Robert's dead? And, there are these people and these people, and it's, backstabbing and undermining and all these things. And I felt like that is what this show got right from the beginning. And like you were saying, it's super serious, but those scenes around the king's council table with like the master, the king's hand and the master of coin and all this, like those are the scenes that I'm on the edge of my seat for, because I feel like that's where the drama really is the political intrigue. Like, and that's what I think for me, where Game of Thrones fell off, when it became less about the political intrigue and more about like these fantastic beasts, these dire wolves, these
Mhm.
dragons, the Night King, the giants, all of this different stuff. And I felt like that's where Game of Thrones kind of lost me a little bit. Whereas the beginning was so fascinating because of all that political intrigue and what have you. And I felt like that was really, really, really on display in the first episode of House of Dragons, and it really sucked me in a way that I wasn't expecting to. And it also didn't hurt that there was a great maiming scene where people were getting their
Oh
heads
yes,
cut off, their hands cut
that
off,
was
their
good.
dick cut off. And as soon as they were as soon as they started cutting off people's hands because they were thieves and somebody in the background yells rapers, I was like, well, I know where this is going.
Here we go. Yeah.
But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. I'm very interested to see where this goes. I will say that the gentleman behind you, Matt Smith, is the actor. And he's playing the king's brother, Prince Daemon Targaryen. That man is not attractive with that bleached blonde platinum hair. He looks
No,
like borderline grotesque.
freaks me out. That's why I
Yeah.
actually chose the background. So
Well, and I think I said when we did the trailer reaction that he looks like Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2
yes,
a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. But so Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon episode 1 going to be facing some stiff competition here in about a week when Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, Ring of Power, whatever it's called, drops. It's going to be interesting because I can't remember a time where there were two shows in the same like offshoot genre, not something like a
Yeah.
courtroom drama or like a cop show or whatever. So like intrinsically tied together based on, you know, what types of property and story they're telling, and also just the timing of the episodes or the timing of the seasons, because it's is, you know what I mean? Game of Thrones and Tolkien are like the two biggest names in fantasy right now. So
Hardcore fans too, just like
definitely
diehards.
hardcore fans on
Okay.
both sides. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think what'll end up happening is the Wheel of Time will be better than both of them. But we'll see.
Yeah.
One man's
Yeah.
opinion. But yeah,
Sure.
I'm excited that I'm excited about this.
And I'm not any less excited. It was just it kind of threw me for a little bit. Maybe I was like I said, you never know. It was just I only watched it once. I watched it right after school. So we'll see. But you know, I'm still in on it. I'm still in on it. Like you said, I like the political drama. I do actually like that. It was just there were parts of me that were just so over the top. But I'm not down on it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Interesting stuff. We're going to shift gears to something a little bit more lighthearted than bludgeoned Packers. The animated sensation sweeping the nation, taking the world by storm, Bluey, which is an Australian cartoon about a blue heeler dog named Bluey, who is 6 years old, and her 4-year-old sister Bingo, and her parents Bandit and Chili. And I had Greg specifically watch one episode in particular, and I'll get your thoughts on that. But just to give people an idea about Bluey is, I think the best thing about Bluey is the episodes are only about 8 minutes long.
Oh yeah, that definitely threw me where I was like,
they're very
this is short.
bite-sized. They're very bite-sized, and I think that is
Has the music
designed for the target audience, which is obviously younger children, and there's lessons to be told in each episode. But I think that this cartoon and these episodes are made just as much for the parents watching them as the kids watching them. So the episode that I had you pick out was from part 1 of season 3, Facey Talk.
Yes.
So what did you think? This is Facey Talk special because it also a big character in this episode is Bluey and Bingo's cousin Muffin. And yes. I think Muffin's my favorite character. She's a side character. I almost pee my pants any episode that Muffin is involved in. But you got,
I,
I
I
mean,
get it.
this was your intro to Bluey. So what did you think of Facey Talk and just Bluey in general?
So jumped in, you know, deep end, just ready. Uh, didn't know what this show was about at all.
Mhm.
Accidentally watched the wrong thing first, where it was someone taking like toy characters and moving them around,
As the
and I
episode,
watched
yeah. I've seen that
and I and
video,
I watched that
unfortunately,
entire episode, and I was like, I don't think this is it.
Mhm.
So it's the same episode, it's the same thing, but it's just
With toys.
they just have toys. So I watched the regular episode, and so I actually ended up watching the same material twice. Uh, Big fan of it. And
Mhm.
like one of those things where I think honestly, like, I don't want to, I don't want to be at work watching like House of the Dragon
Right.
at the end of the day where I have to stay 30 minutes extra.
Mm.
I think I'll just put this on kind of as like background while I'm like grading stuff,
Mm.
because it is, I like the Australian accent.
Yep.
That I did not know that,
Yeah.
because like I said, I went into this blind. I did not want to know anything. I didn't want to have anything. Um, I like the storytelling elements of it. It kind of reminded me of like Berenstein Bear storytelling
Yeah,
moments.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and where like the kids are doing things wrong, the parents are kind of like, "What's going on?" Like the dad cracked me up in this episode. She's like, "Well, you're not here to parent." And he's like, "But this is how I parent," and
Yeah.
it cracks me up. I will say that I am fine with kids shows, kids stuff just always kind of cracks me up. Anyhow, because it's supposed to as an adult. Like,
Yeah.
SpongeBob is one of those shows where like it's literally meant for adults, but kids can watch it as well.
Yeah.
And this show, like, I laughed out loud. It's 7 minutes. I bet I was laughing like at least half of it. I'm just laughing because it's bonkers. It's
Yeah.
legit bonkers. And the voices crack me up. And like the theme of this was just, can we do this? Oh, blah blah blah. Like, and they just like they drive their parents completely like insane, especially the dad. And I don't know if that's
Mhm.
the overall thing of like the dad just loses it, but he
Well,
loses it in such a realistic way. Like it's not like he like head explode or anything. It's just like it's these characters that are just
right.
doggos.
Yeah. Blue
And so,
healers.
but it's like regular, they act like the way people would, but
Right.
because it's for kids, it's just like
Yeah.
we have to just make
It's
them dogs.
anthem, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, to me, I find the show highly watchable, knowing like the episodes being so quick,
Yeah.
and they buzz by too. It's not like it's a long, like it sounds weird to say this, but there are long 7 minute things. Like there just
Right.
are,
Right.
and
Some would
this
say
movie is
our
fun.
videos.
Yeah, you could argue sometimes our videos. But for me, this was just really funny. You said like you told me to watch this because you're like, this is what parenting is.
Mhm.
And I looked at that both ways. Where like, you have to watch these videos because you are a parent, but then also the way like kids react to parents and how kids can kind of outsmart parents in a different
Mhm.
way. And I just thought I think it's very clever. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not joking. I probably will watch more of this just for fun.
Yeah.
If I have 7 minutes to burn for whatever reason, be like, load it up. I
Yeah.
will. I know I'll laugh.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. There's the first season is, I think, like 50 episodes, and then the second season's like 52, and then they released season 3 part 1, which was 25. It's fun. My mom loves it.
Sure.
She loves it. And there's an episode where so the dad in the one that you watched is actually their uncle Stripes. He's not in it as much. Bandit
I'm
is their
sorry. Yeah,
dad.
it's the
Yeah.
uncle. That's right. That's right.
So there's an episode where he talks about like bullying his sibling in the 80s, and some of the stuff was like he's telling him a story, it's like a fairy tale, and he says, they're like, you don't have a helmet on. He's like, it was the 80s, mate. Anything goes. Moms were allowed to be mean. Trampolines with no nets, all that stuff. It's so funny. I laughed the first time I saw Facey Talk, which is the episode in question here. I laughed so hard
Yeah.
because I can't tell you how many times like the kids have been on FaceTime with a relative and they go haywire.
Sure.
And that's exactly what that episode was. You know what I mean? And then she's doing the thing like, tell me if I'm safe. and like stick the phone around the corner and stuff. Oh my goodness, the whole thing is just so ridiculous, and it just hits so close to home. So many of the episodes are like, I've been in that situation. Our friend Ty loves it as well.
Sure.
And his kids are big fans of Bluey and everything. So yeah, it's just something that, like, I wanted to take a little bit of time on one of the episodes or a video to really just talk about this, because I do think that it's such a high quality for something so short. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's such a high quality. It's funny for kids. It's funny for adults. There's a lesson to be learned in every episode, and for both, really, for both
Yeah.
parents and kids. And it's just, the Australian accents make it all the more funny. And I really just love Bluey, and I can't wait for season 3, part 2. And I'm gonna be 38 in a month.
I will 100% say if you're a parent, you should definitely watch with your kids. If you're not a parent and you just need a laugh,
Yeah,
you're gonna get it. This was based off of just one episode, but I don't think things stray from what I watched in the way of comedy.
right.
It like I said, and it was one of those things where like I wasn't expecting the laugh. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Mhm.
So like now that I know that it's funny, I'm probably going to be looser to it and even more willing to like start losing my mind on it because
Yeah.
it is funny. Because at
Yep.
first I'm just like, what is happening?
Mhm.
And now I'm like, oh no, this show is hilarious.
Yeah. Disney Plus. It's on Disney Plus, so check it out. Media recommendations, champ.
Chugging along with just some books. Watching. We're actually right in the middle of watching The Firm, the Tom Cruise movie.
He runs in
Just
that,
he
if I'm
does
not
run a
mistaken.
lot in that movie. He does. Like every movie, it's a great movie. It's so silly. It's very silly, but in a good way. Silly,
That's
based
a
off of the
that's a John
Grisham.
Grisham. Yeah.
Yeah, based off the Grisham book. It's like the fifth or sixth time I've watched it. I think it's Shane's second now watching it. Just getting back in that school mode, man. It's weird. Like I try to pick up books of my own and even try to listen to some music. I will say I did watch the John Mayer live concert that he
Yeah.
had that benefited flood victims in Montana. It's $20 to watch it online, and you just have it, and it's great. So I do recommend that. I mean, if you're a John Mayer fan like myself, it's definitely watchable. But he does this album. He does an entire Born and Raised album, which is kind of like more folk music, and it's good. It's a good thing to watch. It's a couple hours. For $20, you're helping support people that went through something pretty traumatic in Montana. So I will say that. What about you, Brent?
I uh we started watching Yellowstone, speaking of Montana. We
Oh,
started
nice.
watching Yellowstone, the Kevin Costner led sort of modern Western. Just a couple episodes in, and I mean, it's Kevin. He's got a weird like rasp to his voice in this
There's a
show.
little rasp, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was checking that out. Uncharted is on the movies on Netflix now, so I watched
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like a third of it, whatever. And then I just watch Seinfeld every night. I watch one episode a
Well,
night.
yeah, you can't. Yeah,
And
that's
I watched an episode of The Office because I was like, maybe we'll take a break from Seinfeld and watch, just pick a random episode of The Office and see, and man, I don't know if it was the episode like that I picked, but it did not hold up very well. And then to go from that episode of Seinfeld to the Top of the Muffin to You episode or that episode in The Office to going to Top of the Muffin to You was rough for Seinfeld. For The Office,
rough
Jesus.
for The Office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rough for The Office, because
Um,
Seinfeld, that at the end of the muffin one where Jerry had shaved his chest and he's doing that
Howling.
whole, oh my god, man, hilarious, hilarious.
I mean, not to go too far into this because we had Summer of George, but I have watched more episodes of Seinfeld than probably anyone I know, except for maybe like there's two people that may have come close to me, Mitch and Ty. And I, like you said, Saturday is usually my day. I watch like two or three episodes because they're just on,
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I've seen this episode 100 times, and that's not even hyperbole. There's a good chance I actually have, and it's like it's the first time watching it. I lose it. It's because it's better almost because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
And there's something about I have watched The Office recently. I still find it funny, but I will say I think you're a little right. There are some stuff that just doesn't work,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. Not
I just
everything can completely stand the test of time like Seinfeld.
Yeah, and I don't understand. There's people that feel the same way that we feel about Seinfeld about Friends, and
Mhm.
I'm just
Nah, it's
baffled
got
by
nothing.
that.
Yeah,
I just don't understand it
I
because
tried
it's talk
watching.
about stuff that doesn't
eh,
hold up.
I tried watching an episode of Friends when we were on vacation, and the one I'll make a quick joke about vacation is remember when we went on vacation as kids and like you were so stoked to have better channels or whatever, and then
Yeah,
now it's like damn, I don't have my Netflix account. I
right.
don't have all this, so I just watch this garbage cable. And I tried watching an episode of Friends, and I was like 6 minutes in, I was like, no, no
Yeah,
for me, dog,
it's a
nothing.
no.
And it
It's
was
no
just,
for
and it
me,
was like
dog.
early Friends too, where like Friends was good early, like by all accounts, and I watched it then in the moment. But yeah, Seinfeld still just
It's, is what it
I'll
is.
fight
Man.
people over it about being the
Yeah,
best sitcom. I mean, it just
it's not really. I don't really think that there's any question, but there are people who like The Office more. See, the thing that I think that hurts The Office is it became almost unwatchable after Steve Carell left to me.
well, yeah.
And that's like the death bell, you know what I mean? Like you
mm,
can't continue it, you can't lose your primary character, continue for what, 2 or 3 more seasons and it just
at
be
least two. Yeah,
objectively not as good. And then, you know,
I will say that the dinner party episode still holds
of The Office
of The
with
Office.
him and Jan and Jim and
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
episode is still,
Yeah.
if I rank the
There's
top 10
definitely
episodes of TV sitcoms ever, that one is
it's
it's insane.
uh,
Like it's actually an insane episode. I love
there's
it.
a lot. The thing about The Office is, and I love The Office, right? But there are moments where it is just like piss your pants funny.
Oh yeah,
But then there's a lot of times where it's just ugh.
yeah.
Maybe
It
not
happens.
so much as just like I think I think Seinfeld spoiled us in a way because those Seinfeld, all the characters are terrible people.
Hmm.
And so like that's what I want in a
Right.
sitcom. And so when you get these like heartwarming moments between Jim and Pam, it's like that's really sweet, but when is one of them just not going to tip somebody? You know
When's
what I
Kevin
mean?
just gonna spill? I was like relating to shows. Like I just want to see Kevin spill chili. But
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
exactly. When someone not
yeah.
going to tip someone, or when someone going to break up with someone because they eat peas one at a time. I
Right,
which
right.
I just remember somebody I know, um, not like as a close friend, but they're just
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I started watching Seinfeld." This was like maybe 5 years ago, and they texted me like, "I just started watching Seinfeld. And I watched the P episode,
yeah,
and there's like immediately thought of you, meaning
yeah.
me." And I was like, "Thank you, I appreciate that." And they're like,
Right.
"No, because like you're a psychopath, and you would break up with someone because they eat peas one at a time." It's like, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
I know last summer Dallas was watching. He was like, "Yeah, I've never really sat down and watched it before, other than just like a couple episodes here and there, and it is really funny." I said, "Yeah, it
Yep,
is."
it is.
The BXG
But
podcast
check
posts,
out the Summer of George, the XG episodes
yeah, from last summer,
from last summer.
yeah, with
Go back in the catalog.
some of our esteemed guests. I could give you numbers, but I don't have like episode numbers. But the BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Hawaiian,
Aloha.
on podcast services around the globe: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. You catch us on social media: Instagram at BXG Podcast, at Alpha Guy, at GT Phils, Twitter at BXG Podcast, at Alpha Guy, at GT Phil Sun, and our YouTube channel BXG podcast where you can see trailer reactions, movie reviews, TV reviews, Greg's voice cracking when he eats hot sauce.
I thought it was like buffalo sauce.
Looks like barbecue sauce. Take care and thanks for listening and watching.
Your San Marcos Royals.
Anderson down to the 2. All right.
Take care. Thanks for listening and watching. Take care, buddy.